Holy smokes, watch this epic clash between Congresswoman Hageman and Eric Swalwell in Congress after they debate whether a biological male is able to compete against biological females in sports. You guys have got to check this out.
It is my understanding that this reporting requirement is already required, so I believe that this is redundant. But there's just a few points. I'm not opposed to this amendment because we already have a requirement of reporting sexual abuse perpetrated against any athlete to the appropriate local, state, or federal authorities. But there's a couple of points that I would make in response to the statements made by the proponent of this amendment. When you talk about sexual abuse against women, one of the things that we have repeatedly heard about is women athletes being forced to undress in front of men who are in their locker room. We have heard about this mantra of please be kind and compassionate. I don't understand what is kind or compassionate about forcing female athletes to share locker rooms with male athletes. I don't understand why we are talking about the sexual abuse of women and then immediately turning and pivoting to the idea that that's happening against men. It is happening against women. We're all opposed to the sexual abuse of women. But one of the things that is being reported with men participating in female athletes is the sexual abuse aspect of this. I do not believe that it is kind or compassionate to erase biological women and girls and pretend that they are the same thing as a man who claims to be a girl. I do not believe that that is kind and compassionate. I do not believe that it is kind or compassionate to allow men and boys to dominate women's athletics. I do not believe that it is kind or compassionate to deny a girl a college scholarship because a boy was faster and stronger. I do not believe that if you read the bill that is at issue here, all we have done is to not define female and male and simply state that this bill, it would prohibit a person whose sex is male from participating in an amateur athletic competition that is designated for females, women, and girls. That is the only thing that this bill does. This is not a bill about transgenderism. This is not a bill that attacks the transgender community. It is about protecting women and girls in women and girls athletics. That is all. There are biological differences between girls and boys, regardless of what someone may claim that they are. All this bill does is make sure that we are being kind and compassionate to our female athletes. But if you believe that there is a need to include this amendment, I'm not opposed to it, but we need to stop attacking us, stop attacking Republicans simply because we're trying to protect women and girls. We are very sincere in our belief that it is critically important that women and girls are able to access and participate in athletics. We believe that it is incredibly important that 13-year-old girls are able to play volleyball and basketball without the risk of being injured by a man or a boy. We are entirely sincere in protecting our families of girls and women who do not believe that their girls and women should have to compete against boys and men. With that, I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to confirm that the amendment is accepted.
Yeah, I got to call the question, which I think we should adopt the amendment too. I think that's generally understood. All those in
Move to strike the last word.
Oh, gentleman from California is recognized.
I guess it's a good thing that some folks on the other side are now interested in what happens in a locker room, and we're not going to look the other way. Okay, I'll accept that. But this is something that is not a thing. It's not a thing. We have things happening in our community that are a thing. Kids getting mowed down by assault rifles at their school, that's a thing. Young women in their community having IVF treatments banned, that's a thing. Women being forced into government-mandated pregnancies, that's a thing. And those are all things that we can address in this committee. But okay, I'll play out this exercise with y'all. How are you going to enforce this? I know I'm yielding to somebody over there. Tell me, how are you going to enforce this? This is an on-demand gender check that you want to be a part of now. So who's enforcing it? Is Mr. Jordan enforcing it? Mr. Gates enforcing it? Mr. Biggs? Who is enforcing this on-demand gender check? You didn't put that into the bill. Seems a little creepy that we don't know who's going to be determining genders here. Ms. Hageman, I'm deferring to you. You're the only one that wants to speak on this. It's interesting, you're the only one who wants to speak on this. No one else will even touch this because it's kind of creepy that you're setting up on-demand gender checks. Kind of obvious.
Order? Are you calling me creepy?
I'm saying it's creepy that you're setting up an on-demand gender check and you won't tell us how you're going to enforce it.
May I respond to that? Will you engage in it colloquially?
Tell me how you're going to enforce it, yes.
Well, according to the U.S. boxing transgender policy, they're the ones that plan on doing the inspection. The athlete has declared that her gender identity is female and has completed gender reassignment surgery. So
how
not
do they inspect
protecting
it?
girls and women
How do they inspect it?
protects us. That I guess you're going to have to ask the boxing association.
Shouldn't you know? This is your
they're
bill.
the ones that have adopted the policy.
I reclaim my time. They don't know. They don't know. They see a small issue that's happening in a few communities, and they want to extrapolate that across America, and they want you to think it's a thing. It's not a thing. There are things. Gun violence, fertility bans, government-mandated pregnancies, those are things. This is not a thing. Ms. Jackson-Lee, who has a bill to address the targeted violence against the transgender community, that's a thing. That's something we should be working on. This is not a thing, and so I just invite my Democratic colleagues who have so passionately spoke on this to continue to passionately speak on this, but to just reject this as a thing. And thank you for caring about what happens in locker rooms. I yield back.
Thing is about this argument, it's not only like these biological males are taking away opportunities from biological females, such as scholarships, such as opportunities for professional sports maybe. Not only that, but they also have to deal with it in the locker room. I heard a story a couple years ago. It's like a 55-year-old man who on one day decided, you know what, I'm going to be a female. They applied to college and then they joined the basketball team, not for the men's, but for the women. Somebody who was just a 55-year-old man walking on the street is competing against 18-year-old girls in basketball. That is how absurd this argument is. But not only that, also in the locker room, he is changing right next to these people. Is that okay? In what world do we condone this behavior? Not only have we been condoning it as a society, we have been demonizing anybody who speaks out against it. If you ask me, the only people who are evil in this world are those who want to subject these young girls to having to change with these men. And that right there was a nice example. This happens in high schools as well, where these females are underage. And this happens in high schools all the time, where these young females who are 12, 13, 14 years old have to change right next to men. It's simply not okay. They want us to be delusional and believe that everything in life is roses and sunshines. But the fact is, men and women are not equal, nor will they ever be. God made us differently for a reason. But just because men and women are not equal does not mean that one is worth more than the other. We are just skilled at different things. For the same reason a man is just naturally and biologically stronger and more muscle mass, a female is able to bring life into this world. Both of these traits are needed for our society and our civilization to advance. But Swalwell is the type of guy who will say, no, a man can get pregnant, a female can lift more than a man. It's just simply not true. Exceptions do not disprove the rule, and it's such a shame that they're trying to push this on young kids, because if they can control the young minds of America, then they control the future. That's why they're so adamant and hell-bent on indoctrinating kids all the time. The fact is, I don't care what you do in your private quarters. You can be a giraffe, you can be an octopus, you can be an orangutan, you can do all that as long as you don't try and push it on kids. Because the simple fact of the matter is, if you did stuff like this 40 years ago, 50 years ago, you'd be locked up in a psychiatric center. Kids don't need to be hearing about all this. These people who switch genders end up regretting it and realizing, oh my gosh, I have permanently mutilated my body. I'm never going to be able to have kids. I'm never going to be able to live life normally ever again. And then they lash out, and then they are the ones who commit a lot of violent acts. Eric Swalwell is everything wrong in Congress, and Mrs. Hageman right here, she is aces every single time I watch her, because she does not let up whatsoever. This girl is a pit bull. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this down below. How much longer do you think Eric Swalwell has in Congress? And yeah, if you enjoyed, make sure to smash that like, comment, subscribe, and wish you guys nothing but the best. Till next time.